You know that moment when you dump all of your fabric on the table and you think, okay, now what? Yeah, I've been there. Fabric pulls used to feel like this weird mix of inspiration and just kind of low-key panic. Fingers crossed, hope it all works out in the end, right? But I have found a process that works for me every single time. And today I'm going to share it with you. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Loose Threads and Stitches. I'm Kristen, and this is your cozy corner of the quilting world where we get to talk about the messy, the middle, the wins, and everything in between of the quilting world. Today, we're talking about how I build my fabric pool for a quilt, okay? This is the part that you can either make you feel like an absolute artist or send you into a spiraling, I hate every single piece of fabric that I own. I must have to go to the store, right? I'm going to walk you through the exact steps that I use to build a fabric pool that feels very cohesive, creative, and is actually a lot of fun. I like to call this method the anchor fabric method. It always starts with what I call my anchor fabric, okay? That's something that I'm completely obsessed with in that moment. It could be a moody floral. It could be a weird green that I just kind of fell in love with while I was looking through my stash. It could be a novelty print for a theme quilt that I'm making for somebody. It could have tiny little strawberries on it. Anything that sparks a little bit of like, oh my gosh, yes, I have to use that in my brain, okay? I don't try to force myself to pick the right fabric for a project. I start with what I'm most excited to sew with. That is my anchor. That's what everything else will build from. Once I've got my anchor, I look for 3 to 5 supporting fabrics that echo or balance something about it. Not just matching the color, okay, but matching the vibe of that very first anchor fabric. If my anchor fabric feels vintage, I'm probably not going to pull a neon modern blender, okay? If it's soft and romantic, I'll reach for some gentle florals or some low volumes or some blenders that feel like they belong at the same tea party, okay? I like to kind of imagine like my fabrics all sitting at a table, you know? Like who is going to mingle best with who? If you're looking at a classroom full of teenagers, you've probably done the same thing. Like, not necessarily like pairing them up romantically, but like, who is going to get along with who best? All right. Same like tastes and values and just general vibe. Okay. So color wise, I will repeat a key color from the anchor print, or I'll pick a contrast color that makes it pop really big. I'm looking for harmony. I'm not looking for clones in my fabric. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. I'm looking for harmony in it. Okay, here's where things get a little bit spicy, and that is value and scale. And this can actually be kind of where like the panic starts to rise, okay? This is what makes your quilt actually readable, okay? So you're not just looking at a big giant blob of color or, big prints all over or tiny prints all over. I try and include at least one light, one medium, and one dark fabric. And that doesn't mean they have to be boring solids, okay? You can totally do this with prints, but they need enough contrast to show off your piecing. If you go to, I don't know, let's say 23 hours worth of trouble of piecing all of these intricate fabrics together, you want to be able to see that you did that work, okay? You want to be able to see the differentiation between your piecing. Same with scale. I like to mix small prints, medium prints, and maybe 1 or 2 that are bold or large scale. Too many tiny prints can make the whole quilt feel fussy, and too many large ones can make it feel, I guess what you could say, like chaotic, okay? There is a delicate balance, and that's what I'm looking for when I'm doing my fabric pull. If you've ever seen me at a quilt shop, you've probably seen me doing my audition process, and that is where once I've got a pile going of fabric that I think will go together, I'm not necessarily saying yes, absolutely, or no at that moment. I'm pulling fabric that I think is going to go together. I lay them all out and I look, okay? I'm not just looking at the fabric bolts with my eyes only. I'm also looking with my gut. And if you try this, that will make sense, okay? But if something feels off, it probably is, okay? Generally, if you have, 27 pieces of fabric laid out on the table, you're automatically going to pick one that is just not doing it for you, okay? I don't try to justify it. I just take it out and I try something else. If it's a process of elimination, you pick the one that you like the least. That's the biggest shift that I've made in my process. I don't force it. I don't necessarily always have a reason in mind for why things don't work. I just know that in my gut, it doesn't work. And I try to treat fabric pulling like an audition. So every piece gets a chance, but not every piece gets the part. Not every piece makes the cut. I want to tell you about a pull that I did last month, okay? Now, I was doing this from my own stash, okay? And I started with this big, bright, bold, retro floral, okay? It had some oranges and some dusty blue, some avocados, like avocado green, rather, not actually avocados, but it was super 70s feeling. And, I was vibing with it. I really thought that it was going to be a really cool quilt. So from there, I pulled like a soft cream for contrast, right? And then I pulled out a tiny blue dot fabric for calm. I got some green ginghams in there. I'm trying to look over my fabric stash that's still kind of pulling up over there. And I wanted some punch to it. So I got some like gold stripe to warm it all up. And I auditioned all of these together. And there was like 3 different reds in there and none of them worked. So I just kicked the reds out. I kicked them out. And the result in picking out these fabrics, it looks really intentional, but it's still playful. Like it's telling a story. And the story is, it's very, very loud on this quilt. It's very loud. It's very bright. I wouldn't expect this to be like, I don't know, like what you would think is like a baby's first quilt. Okay. Like, those soft hues. Like, no, this is like bright, happy, unashamed, completely freedom quilt. Okay. So here is your permission slip from me. You don't have to make the perfect pull on the first try. All right. Sometimes I pull a bunch of my fabrics together, and if it's not working for me in that minute, I just walk away and I come back the next day and I'm just kind of like, what has happened? Like, who picked these fabrics? And then I start the audition process and I say, okay, out of all these fabrics, this one I like the least. And this one is just, I don't know what I was thinking, and I try in different ones. And it's not a failure. It's part of the process. Color and fabric is just as much about seeing it work together as it is about feeling it, cohesively feeling it work together as well. Fabric is forgiving. So you are able to play with it, move things around, add that weird pop of color just to see if it works, right? You're the artist here. You are the one who gets to say if it works or if it doesn't work. And if you're kind of new to the quilting world and still trying to figure things out, I have created a guide that is just for you. It's everything that I wish I had known and wish I had on hand when I first started quilting. It would have made things so much easier. And I have created all of that for you. I'm going to put a link down in the description box down below this video to that so that you can check it out. There is a coupon also in the description box down there for you. You're welcome. It's amazing. I've had such good feedback from this, and it's all the things that I wish I had when I first started out. So you don't have to go through what I went through trying to piece all of that together. I've done it all for you, and it's been really super popular in my shop too. So next time that you're staring at your stash and you're thinking, I don't know what works together anymore, remember, you do know what works together. Start with what you love. Build from the vibe of that fabric. Check your contrast. Make sure there is some dark ones and some light ones. And then trust your eyes and trust your gut as well, okay? You can totally train your eye. You can build your own style, and every pull that you make is another step towards building something that is so uniquely and completely you. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this episode gave you a little fabric pull inspiration, send it to a quilt friend who's stuck in indecision land, who doesn't have that confidence, okay? Who needs a little bit of help in that, or somebody who just can't even start the project because they haven't got the fabric right, right? We all probably could either be guilty of that ourselves or know somebody who's very guilty of that, right? In an episode coming up very soon on the Loose Threads and Stitches podcast, we are going to be tackling quilt math for people who'd really rather not. I'd be one of those people, okay? But until then, go pet your stash, trust your eye, take a deep breath, and have a good rest of your week. I'm Christen with Icy Stars Quilting. I'll see you next time. Bye.